see, the question is a little complex in regard to understanding in depth if you're looking at the good or the bad. But if I am to really gauge in, I would say that so far Parliament's performance and play has really been a minimal, 50-50. There's been times it has done its dues, and then, of course, there are also times where there are controversies. We have witnessed where there's been friction between the opposition members of Parliament and then the ruling government over certain questions that needed to be answered. But of course, as usual with the customs and then the nature of how Parliament handles business, I presume that there's been a way things have really been neutralized, that you can see that. I think the performances are really,
So
are really
would you say
visible.
we've also succeeded at, getting our parliamentarians, being sanctioned by the United States? Because some of them, about 300 that were, of course, engaged in the passing of the anti-gay bill, being sanctioned.
As you see, issues of sanctions are always different. And of course, you see anything that infringes on the rights of the majority or rights of the country and its cultural norms. Of course, you're bound to always get the frictions. Now, most of them, possibly those that could be having a business, associations or the links, or rather wanted to have moments to travel that side. If there's been sanctions by the U.S. government, of course, it calls for some actions, but the actions are felt with what the partook in. They were behind the anti-homosexual bill, and of course, you see in every situation or in every path you take, there's always both the bad and the good. So they did it for us, the Ugandans, and then they should really enjoy it with us.
So according to you, would say that the passing of the anti-homosexuality bill was an achievement by Parliament?
Was an achievement by Parliament, and then it was also on the good cause of Ugandans that they literally have a very strong cultural norm to observe and then accord to.
Specifically speaking to these sanctions, let's understand this before we can even proceed to more achievements or even more failures of this August House. What effect does this have on the country? Because I choose to believe there's an effect.
Of course, you see, one thing
and are we underlooking the effects?
One thing that we should understand, and then comprehend as a country is the fact that we have a certain cultural norm that we've been following, and then you see for such activities that have come to derail or break those very patterns or norms. Of course, there's always consequences. There's always the negative effects, and then the mindset of everyone looking towards it as something that is evil. Of course, there are those that would look at it as something that they were inborn, and then there are those that have that very strong culture. Uganda is a Christian-based.
They have that African
African traditional, and then a Christian-based country. And anything that goes contrary to that is going to be looked at as something evil, and then that might break the next generations to come. You imagine that before the bill was passed, there was a lot of activity going on, a lot of these facilitation, and then the fundings, the sponsorships over the same event. But of late, you're seeing the embassies that have been closing. There are then certain dealings that have also been cut off. But the country is surviving.
No, we might be surviving now, but are we going to be surviving, for let's say over 5 years? Because we've greatly survived on the help of these different nations.
No, as leaders,
even these parliamentarians that did pass the bill,
as
when they have a problem, they go to these nations to seek for medical attention, to seek for literally the good things they have.
As people that should be more focused on a socio-economic, transformative system, and then communities, we should be able to reflect a certain setting that can be able to sustain itself even when the leaders are not there tomorrow.
But
We should
does
not be
Uganda have that
self-reliant.
setting?
Now, if at this point we cannot begin experiencing and feeling some of this, then we are going to become a total burden even to the next generations. We should portray we should portray an image that the country can be able to sustain itself. We have a lot of resources that we can put into play. We have partners that don't practice some of these events that possibly are constrained towards our rights as a country. Then we have to stand firm and make sure that some of these things are cut off. We're a country that can sustain itself. We have managed to live for 62 years, and I believe that for the next other hundreds of years or so, we can be able to survive.
We can be able to survive with a public debt burden of we are now standing at 88%. Does that really show that we can really be able to survive without this help? I want us to be to look at this objectively, because this is a nation that is struggling when it comes to debt. Inflation is high. You look at the standards of living also quite high. The levels of corruption, skyrocketing. Are we able?
When you bring it in that category, then of course you see we bring in the comparative, kind of.
Because I want to include everything. That has to be objective.
You see, Uganda at its state should be. I mean, is a country that is able to sustain its public debt or rather resources. And if you're to look at the public debt, it might be 80%, but then we are fairly doing better. We are doing better than the other East African states.
It's not about comparing.
That is it. That is it. You see, one thing that you should understand is that we have key and game players that want to dine and then partake on this building system buildings with us, the governance. Now, if the East African bloc is put into play, then Uganda is going to benefit in form of the market resource and so on. So we shall have a lot of space to utilize for our own good. Now, for right now, the country that has come out of the COVID pandemic, we have literally been constrained because businesses were put on a stand. There was totally nothing that was going on. We are slowly regaining. And of course, the process of regaining, there's always that adjustment. You always feel the friction. But as we're speaking, most of the things are being contained. You can see that the inflation has been contained. There has been no subsidies. Even what you are seeing, the current engagements that we're getting into, the events that are going to occur in December and January, you're seeing that the country is trying to regain its stand.
Now you see, Mr. Otim, when
now,
you say the country
when you say the public debt is something that is very big for us to discuss within this short time. And then also when you're to look at Uganda, like I told you, that at our level we're standing at rather a steady flow. It's not so bad for us as a country. The only thing that we need to do is to regulate and then streamline or cut off on wastage, and then put mostly our resources into productive activities that can regenerate revenue for ourselves.
Okay, I'll take that as something that we need to get on as a nation. But you spoke about what will be happening in January, the NAM and also the G77. We have the meetings of the speakers from the Commonwealth nations that will be, of course, chaired by our speaker, Right Honorable Anita Among. Are we even in the right shape to be hosting these?
Yeah.
What does this mean to Parliament? Is this an achievement that you can speak about?
This is a great achievement for us as a country, because you see, some years back we also had the privilege of hosting CHOGM, and then some other events. When you're to really bring out these activities coming, of course the country first and foremost is getting its own recognition.
That's right.
And then also for our speaker being voted among the best, the best in the East Africa, legislative, within them as speakers, it shows that there is a very good kind of stand for us in form of governance and then leadership within the institution of Parliament. The only thing that we have to put across is that these events are coming in at a time when the country is regaining. We as the citizens have to take to full, capacity that we utilize them to the fullest in form of hospitality and then, selling our country. We should not put out a bad image. We should rather see how we can market our country because this is the time.
That's right. We now speak to the different, how has Parliament performed in regards to passing different laws? Because I did, of course, notice that the Speaker, literally, I would say on a quarterly basis, she has come out and, elaborated on what laws have been passed, what amendments have been, put. How has Parliament effectively worked on, legislating? And the manner, conduct of legislation.
The performance of Parliament has really been, rather exceedingly well, which recommendation is quite good. Because if you're to look at the business transacted since the time of 2021, there's been more than 200 sessions or sittings, and of which we have witnessed 36 bills being passed, and then over 33 being enacted. Now, also when you're to look at the kind of criteria or projection, we had expected literally minimum performance, but then there have also been lots of other engagements where we're seeing, of course, the current ministerial statements being also tabled and then rather try to resolve, and then there've also been questions tasked to government being answered. Petitions have also been passed. So,
but is government answering properly those questions?
Yeah,
because
government,
the fact that the Speaker hails from NRM, the Deputy Speaker NRM, of course NRM having the majority of the members of Parliament, evidentially we did see something happening with this boycott of the opposition. It took government quite a number of weeks to respond.
No, but you see,
Parliament was asking.
You see, the mandate, the mandate of Parliament, or rather, the main role of Parliament is to rather, legislate, and then also constitutionally to represent the people. Now, what the members of opposition did through the leader of opposition, of course, it shows that there's a level of democracy.
There might be democracy.
Then also to answer to what you're trying to put across, the members of Parliament, the opposition members of Parliament, had the right to what they did, boycotting, the House and so on. Of course, so it's constitutionally it's not accepted, but they had the right.
No, they have a right.
Yes, and then also the speaker coming out to try and sit them down and resolve the issues, and then say that okay, fine, we can put the government to task. It was also called for.
But there were a little bit of some back and forth with her, of course, trying to threaten them at first. And also, I want us to specifically speak to Parliament being able to put government to question, to answer their questions. How has it performed with such an incident happening?
If I'm to rate, the performance has really been good, because I've seen that most of the sessions or the sittings, the Prime Minister who heads government business has been able to attend to most of them. She has answered both the good and even the tougher questions that have at times almost resulted to war in the August House. But all in all, I think that there's of course there is always that gap. There's always that gap, but you will always leave it for other scenarios. Okay. But looking on the performance of Parliament, there's really been a good performance. There's been an engagement that is felt all over. And then also, of course, you see, in everything that you do, you always expect to always have a little challenges and weaknesses.
And and we know when we speak challenges, of course, we want to allude to the fact that how we get to handle these challenges is how we get to show our effect in regards to performance. Now, with the Speaker handling that situation of the MPs the way she handled it at first, and also specifically now speaking to the performance of different committees in Parliament, we did see different, reports. I've asked this question before, and of course, I've not gotten a clear answer from different people that have been in that seat. These committees passing different reports, and the reports not being attended to by Parliament. That is them being shelved, and of course, that is, I would say something that falls in the docket of the Speaker, failing to put them on the order paper. Is this something that we need to address, and how does it affect us?
Of course, you see, anything that is always not resolved always has its own effects on how it turns back.
I will insist specifically on the Kosasa report.
On the Kosasa reports, Honorable Senyonyi himself came out and made complaints about some of the reports.
And were the complaints viable?
And the Speaker tasked him and told him that, you see, most of the reports that you have submitted have passed through the clerks, and then of course there's always that review.
Yeah, but of course
make.
the Speaker's office
And,
is responsible for.
Of course, the Speaker's office is responsible, and she has always given most of this report's time. Now the Kosasa report, there was a particular one that brought friction, and Honorable Senyonyi wanted it tabled the way he had presumed everything was to flow. But of course, there's always room for the minority report. When you to bring yours, there's always room for the minority report. So, but all in all, if you're to look, that is only one report that you have singled out of the many that have really.
The other reports that have not been tabled, but I picked this one out because there was a little bit of some, this really brought a lot to light. A lot of corruption, a lot of, I would say.
Is that the report of the civil aviation?
Definitely. Yes. That is it.
No, you see, the report of civil aviation up to now, the current information that I can pass across is that is incomplete. There's still more, kinds of investigation, and then, of course, engagement between the parties. That
is it by those
now,
investigations
Honorable
by Parliament?
Senyonyi, it was brought. It was brought to Parliament before the Speaker. But I think one or two things were missing, and the Speaker decided to take it back to committee. So it is Honorable Senyonyi's responsibility to make sure that the report is is up to date before it tabled.
Well, I would say we need to throw more light and clarity on that, because
it's only one report that has really been giving Parliament rather some hard time.
Okay.
But I want to believe that the people that are concerned about it will eventually have it tabled and handled.
Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and of course looking at different other committees in Parliament. How are they performing? Because we have some that are led by the opposition members of Parliament, and of course others led by government. The Budget Committee of Parliament this time around being tasked after the budget framework paper has been already put out there to on the floor of Parliament. This time round, how are they performing?
Now the Budget Committee has been, their performance is, has been, well, it's been good. The only challenge possibly is, when you are allocating for some of these, making the allocations for some of these budgets, there's always that room adjustment. You can't tell what happens. Rather, when you're already serving the first or second quarters. So the first quarter came, and then the second is almost due, but you can see they're already supplementaries. But one thing is that,
and we are coming to them.
Yes,
we want to talk with
they're already supplementaries. But one thing is that some of these sittings, or rather some of these committees, handle business in a different way. And most of them, when they do their sittings, of course, they normally engage most of these parties. But of course, you find that there are shortfalls. Now, the shortfalls is now where they come in and then they try to subdue and then, try to break even. But all in all, the performance of most of the committees has been, rather well. It's what has moved the House to passing most of the bills that you can see being passed, those that are being enacted. Even there are more that are already, I think, going to be tabled very soon. But
okay. Would you concur that Parliament continues to focus on, small matters, trivial matters, and failing to get the bigger picture.
I don't know.
Also, in different conflicting issues, we had the Namganza issue, we have the Zake issue. Now, this time around, we could even have the Mwanga Chivombi issue.
No, you see, one thing is that we as Parliament institution, Parliament as an institution, there's always a code of conduct. There's always the act that being a member of Parliament or honorable, you have to exhibit the high level of discipline.
But are these matters worth the discussions that they've been given in Parliament?
Of course, they are not worth it because we rather need to have systems that should be handling in discipline rather adjusted, so that we don't give them much attention. They try to taint the image of Parliament. Now, for me, I think one thing that is that we should be able to really put adjustments into some of this, because there are some events that have really tainted the image of Parliament. You can see what happened between Zake and then the lady of the member of Parliament from Rakai. That scenario was very bad. Now, those are some of the things that we need to avoid. Now, if those things is what Parliament should be able to rather subdue, then we're going to have one of the best performances ever, because we shall be rather reflecting more on practical things that are leading us towards governance, and then cutting us off from small minor things that don't really bring productivity.
And the failure of the executive, led by the president, failing to consent to some of Parliament's decisions. For example, the censuring of Honorable Persis Namuganza. She's still in Parliament. She's still a minister in there. Different other decisions not being taken into account by the executive. What does this mean? Does this show that Parliament is, does this weaken Parliament at some point?
No, you see, I think the issue of saying that the executive has failed in duties possibly is a very big statement. But in line with having duties, executing some of the duties of Parliament, you've seen the president has come out openly, and then he has ascended to most of the bills and then the reports.
For the bills, that's right, yes.
That have come out of Parliament. That shows you that there's a high level of a cordial relation between the executive and then the legislature. Now, for censorship, that's the case of Namuganza. There was a consensus that was put across that it was possibly done in a way that was rather not, I call it uncoordinated. And to the president is a person that solely understands or plays his politics in a different way. If he has not reacted to it, then of course I understand there are certain reasons as to why he's doing so.
So you would say that maybe Parliament is passing
maybe in the next line of
based on emotions.
Maybe I can also, I really don't want to say the emotions leveled or there is a rather bad blood between
because this is how it is looking like.
But one thing that we should know is that the president we have is a mature man. He understands what happens in the August House. He understands what is surrounding him as a person. And I want to say that he will take the action himself. Of course, you see, all these things, whenever Parliament passes them or rather Parliament tables them, they are put onto his desk for him to handle. So I want to believe that there are some files that he has not touched and is waiting to do what? To take his line of action.
Okay.
That could even be in the next reshuffle.
Well,
but of course,
we've been waiting for that
cutting,
for quite some good time.
Cutting off Honorable Namuganza from the duties of minister, and then her being, continuing to act. Of course, that's rather something that it's beyond the constitution that we are serving as a country, because I believe that constitutionally, if someone is censored, then you don't need to act. You rather step down and then let the office, or rather the assistant take charge of the office. But we shall see. We shall see what comes up. I don't want to preempt
what the president will be doing.
What the president himself knows what he's doing.
You know, just a little bit about that reshuffle. We've been waiting for the reshuffle for quite some good time. Do you think it is happening anytime soon?
The president
is it required?
Yes, it's required. It's
and why would you say it's required? Apart from being the president having the mandate to reshuffle cabinet and all that, what are some of those reasons you think really make that dire need for a reshuffle to be done?
First of all, the president looks and weighs the performances of most of the ministers, and then by constitution is mandated to do a reshuffle
Yeah, that's right.
I think 2.5 years. And of course, already the 2.5 years have passed. So the type of I can say the president we have is a man that shocks the nation anytime. He can even shock you now, even tomorrow, even this evening. So for him, is a person that is very unpredictable.
But you aren't pick some of those reasons because.
But of course, you see, there's already been lots of loopholes within the current bunch of ministers.
Yeah, that's what we want. Point out those
loopholes. Of course, one is having rather the issue of iron sheet scandal. That's the corruption, and then also when the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament rather joined the House when there was no quorum of ministers. Not even one had failure to attend.
Yeah.
So most of the ministers had become rather so busy or preoccupied with some of their own duties and did not want to attend the House. Of course, most of these ministers have to answer questions.
And that is why I brought in the question earlier on of, how has Parliament performed in regards to putting to task government?
Yes, putting that, because you see the Prime Minister being head of government business, of course she covers up most of them, because in any reports that are generated, there's always copies that are drafted for the Prime Minister. Now, for that kind of I say shortfall, the president had to come in.
We would even call it incompetence. Because
incompetence. So that's why I think that the president himself is taking time. Possibly he wants that the next batch of ministers that is going to to appoint should be able to take him.
But then should this be taking forever?
No, I don't know. I don't know why it is taking forever, because there already been information around that the list should have come out possibly last month or October, but I don't know why.
So we just wait for it.
So we give him time. He's a man that knows what he's doing.
I want us to still center on the issue of corruption in Parliament, and this now takes us into, on several occasions, Parliament or members of Parliament being cited out to have been bribed, and that is to pass different bills in most cases and all that. At this point in time, there is a rumor that 100 million Uganda shillings could be given to each and every member of Parliament as a thank you for passing a supplementary of 3.5 trillion Uganda shillings, and this is a statement that has been rocking the airwaves since mid last week. These issues and allegations of bribery, where are they taking Parliament? Is it something we need to be worried about?
Of course, we as a country, we need to be very worried with the way the information is being circulated.
And do you think it could be
true? Of course, being rumors and then allegations that are moving from within the opposition leaders or leadership. Of course, it calls for rather caution from those that want to formulate or rather startle a country.
Because there is no smoke without fire.
Of course, there is no smoke without fire. And I don't believe one or two people that came up with the information. I am really not certain how it came about. But of course, you see, such allegations being leveled towards rather a house that implements and then amends laws. It's really so challenging, and it calls for a serious caution.
Because
you rather see that the 100 million that was, if it is alleged that was given, is rather
or is going to be given,
rather was totaling over to 55 billion. That's what I saw somewhere. With the state of roads, and then our kind of actually, let me say, with the state of roads we have countrywide. That money rather would be projected towards handling such. Why would you rather pay someone to pass something that is mandated to do?
Because
But
just
of
just
course,
recently,
just like we have, you have brought it as a rumor or an allegation.
I'm just bringing
Let
it in
it
court.
be served so. Sometimes it is very good to rather put something up front. If there's going to be an activity or an event where money is going to pass, or where money is going to cross off, cross hands, and it has leaked, then serves the country right, because we have to put it in check for it to perform to its due course.
You see why I'm saying this? There was recently an incident in regards to Honorable Tuha Kagawa, that 45 million Uganda shillings scandal. Now we have this 100 million Uganda shillings scandal. Now, does Parliament, or can Parliament afford to have all these, let's call them rumors anyway, can they afford to have these rumors on them? Because, there's an impact it has deep down there to the people that continue to trust Parliament to be able to pass and legislate for them, or even represent them.
Of course, you see, one thing is that any information that is circulated has its own, repercussions. It has its own goods and then, the bad side.
Because
now,
just a bit, Parliament,
yes.
Parliament has been, on different occasions espoused as an entity where people are going there for their own benefit to be able to eat. So isn't this confirming?
Of course, but that then calls for the kind of leadership we have in Parliament. As the citizens, then the citizens should be mandated to send people that have a high level of integrity. Because if you have a bunch of opposition members of Parliament who rather are being cited as people who are opportunists, then I don't know.
I would say not only opposition, because we have NRM members who are also being cited out in the same manner.
There's even another report that has come. I think that is the under Minister of Trade or something, where they're saying that there are some nosy ones that have been making noise and so on about corruption, but the list shows their names as people who benefited from money that was not meant for them. But of course, you see, all this coming out and then is being treated as allegations and then rumors. Eventually, with our systems, something that comes and then doesn't have any resolution is considered as a by the way. But for it to come publicly, it is a question to anyone or to the whistleblowers to open up their eyes and then try and check up the systems that are trying, to streamline on governance and leadership within our country, to try and, put into proper, a proper path of delivering, rather than being self-centered. First, with leadership, anything that has a self-motive is always not considered as a goodwill for the citizen. It is always something that has the dark side. And for Parliament right now, it should be one that will lower down its performances and then the ratings.
Wow.
Yes.
And of course, something important you mentioned there is just, different members of Parliament, about over 30 being involved in an investigation that is being conducted by the CID in regards to, some money that was in relation to the cooperatives. Well, that also adds on to what, we are trying to put across. But anyway, speaking to the supplementary budgets that were passed, just, I would say, a few weeks back, 3.5 trillion Uganda shillings, all this money, about 400 billion allocated to Parliament, rather to State House, and it is of course confidential. You look at what has been allocated to the Ministry of Security in the Office of the President, specifically to ISO. It is also, I would say, confidential money, going to be spent on things that are confidential and all that. We have about about a good amount of billions, 13, allocated to the creatives. We have a good amount of money allocated to Ruwa, surprisingly, to be able to overlook what has been happening in Ruwa. And of course, what is there at the moment. Money was given through a supplementary to construct this hospital, and of course, up until now, we can just find the foundations that have been laid. The essence in passing these supplementary budgets, are we misusing them?
No, you see, one thing is that when you look at the national budget or framework paper, whenever it is tabled in Parliament, the one of the main objectives, or rather side views, is that there's always room for adjustment in supplementaries. That's in case there's it's called for, or there's a need. Now, for State House to request for a supplementary and then for defense and so on, of course, you understand that for a country like Uganda, there are some operations that might come in handy within the time. And you see, the money that is always allocated to defense is always directed towards operating, in other ventures. But the fact that we have two big events that are going to be there for this month and then the next month, of course, having classified budgets under defense sometimes are directed towards covering this kind of rather shortfall security, to avoid rather any
happenings that uncalled for.
Uncalled for, and then any happenings. And then also for State House, of course, the executive has its own, the system or a structure underlining State House, and then we have the anti-corruption unit, we have the RDC secretary, that's under Office of President, and so on. So all these always have their own, also monitoring and evaluation, and then the expenditures. So some of these supplementaries sometimes come in to also switch in and then try and rather make a smooth operation for this.
If you could,
now,
maybe also
my only problem outside it should be on this 2.5 billion that was rather called for to Lubowa supervision, because
that is why you also query
the committee on physical planning and so on, that's under Parliament, infrastructure. I wanted to visit Lubowa, but was denied. And up to now, we have not been fed with the report on the Lubowa and how far it has gone.
And money is being given.
Yes, and money is being given. So billions, and then possibly one or a few billions have gone. I don't want to call them few, but billions have gone. That's of taxpayers' money. And even if you're saying that it's going to supervision of our hospital, that rather anyone that is going towards Entebbe crosses and doesn't even see any structure mushrooming, it calls for lots of questions. And to this, I think rather the people that fronted this should really be tasked to even provide more information.
And here we are looking at the Ministry of Finance being the key fronters of this.
Yeah,
are they failing us as a nation?
The Ministry of Ministry of Finance also possibly could be relying on those that have put in or pushed in their reports.
I thought the Ministry of Finance, before they do give this money out, they try and make some due diligence.
Yes, they make due diligence, but for me as an individual, or as
and even do some audits,
someone that analyzes, someone that that's trying to rather put up a question up front, is that I would be putting question marks on this money that's meant for supervision. But on supporting the circle for musicians, I think it's something that is not bad, because rather there are people that have created lots of revenues for us. Even yesterday, you can see there were lots of events over the weekend, concerts and so on. And of course, when you support them, they continue generating and entertaining. That's another level.
I'm not going to go so much into entertainment.
Yeah, that's another level of rather revenue for us. Government is always hunting for those people to pay
taxes and
so on. So
but do they even have the structures to be able to handle this? 13 billion is a lot of money.
No, what is being done is to also make sure that they get productive. They become more people that are concerned with their own lifestyle, with what they want to do. And creating a SAC, of course, a savings group, is something that is elevates and changes the mindset. I'm also involved in some of the circles, like I have a savings group in my area where I stay in Namgongo. It is a avocado savings group, and it is as I'm speaking, we also have investments going on. But this is a collection of professionals, people of different, professions coming together, and then joining hands, and then you create investments to elevate each and everybody. So if this 13 billion is going to serve the musicians association, it's rather going to be a projection for them. The only thing is that I'm seeing possibly is what you cited, the leadership. So they need to work on that leadership to make sure that it stands to serve
Okay,
them.
you still look at this supplementary budget.
Yes.
Just breaking down and picking out some things that we need to, of course, critically look at. 3.5 trillion is, of course, the money that has been brought out, and there's also an amount of money that is being allocated to payment of debts. For how long shall we continue paying these debts?
Some of these debts.
If you put into consideration of the fact that you said Uganda, as a start, is a nation that can be able to, stand on its own.
Money that is projected to pay debts first is, of course, we always have to keep on, paying off some of these accumulative, debts, or rather, there are debts that have been there for some time. Now, when you delay to pay debts, you know what happens. Of course, they accrue interest.
Yeah, that's right.
And then trying to cut off some of these, of course, limits, or tries to level down on the debt burden we have as a country. So to pay off our debts is not bad. Actually, it is a service to us. It is our responsibility as a country to clear some of those debts. Even if some of them were possibly not, diverted to other, activities. But we as a country, we have to see how to pay off some of our debts.
Okay. Yes. And we have 128 billion Uganda shillings being allocated to the electricity expansion program. Yes, I would say that is something that we need to have as a nation. But then, with, of course, expanding and producing more electricity, and more Ugandans, don't have access to reliable electricity, and we have it being exported to the likes of Kenya, Rwanda. Does this, work for Ugandans? No,
you see, the expansion of most of this electricity or the projects that we're having is that they're trying to cover areas that literally have not been attended to. If you're to go to West Nile actually is under Wenreko. Now, Wenreko is a private company that supplies electricity to West Nile, and government has to pay large sums of money to Wenreko to keep generating power using their thermal, or diesel, power systems. So if there have already been allocations, the phase, I think we call it the phase 3 or phase 4, towards that side. Last time when I was there, they were trying to fix those the systems and so on, the poles. And I'm very happy that any time is going to be put on national grid. And then the expansions that we're looking at are hard to reach areas, places that don't have power completely. And if you're to look, we have some in eastern Uganda, we have Moroto, and then now West Nile, plus some parts from western Uganda. That's the corridor of Kisoros and so on. Now, if we have power, being supplied to most of the parts of the country, because the productivity rate is going to go high. We shall have people doing businesses, and then we shall also have people opening small-scale industries that can operate with the same power that we're having. But other than that, I don't think that is a burden to us as a country. Power is what we need, water is what we need, and all these very essential, commodities.
Wow. Of course, we are almost coming to the end of the show. I think we just have a few minutes, about 3 minutes in there. What, would be, of course, your parting shots? And also summing up the whole discussion in regards to performance of Parliament and all the likes.
No, thank you very much. You see, one thing is that we always come and then try and diverge on some of these matters that concern us, matters of national importance. And of course, to the viewers, we always try to break to them issues that should
a bit
be
complex for them to understand.
Because when you just look at Parliament as an institution, they might think that this is just a bunch of radical people. Rather, we are just electing them to to
Go and
siphon
eat.
and then eat the money. And then also when they see large volumes or sums of budgets being approved by Parliament, of course, they will not know what the money is going to be used for. So you task them. We always come here and then, try and break down. Then we're also using our own opinions and views. We try and then try to streamline and make the matters, look a little simple for them. But of course, there are some others that we might not have room to answer, and we only leave them for the communications or people responsible for that information to be passed. Like there are some questions you asked me about Parliament, but rather we'll leave them for the Director of Communication to rather pen them down, and then we can pick information and share.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say very many thanks for joining us today morning, and hopefully you have a Merry Christmas and also a prosperous New Year. If at all we don't meet till then.
Thank you.
I would say that is what we managed to prepare for you for today morning. This is the Daybreak. We run, that is Monday to Friday, each and every morning. That is 7 to 9 a.m. And of course with my brother Idrissa Mwonge, who chips in here and there, and my brother MC Chia, who comes in each and every day with also the latest information in regards to the world of entertainment. My name is Bruce Mugabe. I'll be saying have yourselves a good morning and a lovely week.
This is BTM. We transform.
Boxing Day nga biri mugeza December agenda kuwoma tugenda kunyumiza Shiba Kalungi, Cindy, Shooting Babazi, Honorable Jaffa Lutaya, Hassan Induga, New York, Zubairi Family, Kaziwe Kapo,